SMS line 21222. Still with Honorable Ombaka and Joy Mdivos. Look at the big stories of the day. Honorable Ombaka, we're talking about what we can do moving forward in terms of Kenya's fight against climate change. Because yes, we'll see all the declarations or lack of made at the UN. But at a personal level, if that river dries, it's not Trump, it's not Kenyatta, it's not any of those, it's you. If the lake is dirty, it's you. So how do you actually move this forward?
I have two ideas. I think, first of all, let's educate our children about environmental issues so that they start taking care of the environment. Plant trees, make sure that they harvest water, you know, they clean water, they do not misuse water and all that kind of thing. Education is very important, always, when you want to do something to improve people's lives. So I think education, environmental education should be highlighted in schools. The second thing, I think there are certain ministries that tend to handle environmental issues, like Ministry of Water and Sanitation. They can handle water environment. What are they doing? What are their programs? Can they work together with Ministry of Tourism and Wildlife? Because even that is environment again. And there is also the Ministry of Mining, for example, and petroleum and mining. There are certain ministries that are interrelated and they tend to handle the environment of our country. I feel that these ministries should collaborate and put policies together, put resources together, work together as a team and protect the country from environmental degradation.
So you need better hand-in-hand coordination in terms of the government.
Exactly.
From where you stand, should you just have ministries work, better together? Are we having a problem where nowadays, you knew that Moya had said you cut one, you plant two. Is that where the root cause of the problem is? They don't even know how to actually take care of the environment.
No, but in fact, in terms of environmental issues, I think Moya is the best president we ever had in terms of modeling, because we must admit, monkey see, monkey do. And if you see, for example, the president putting gabions in place, every minister now is falling over himself to go back to their home county and put gabions in place. If you saw Moi going and digging up trees, I mean, we have visions of our president rolling up his sleeves and getting down and dirty to do environmental work. Monkey see, monkey do. I wish our leaders would also take a front row of not just the tokenism, let's clean the city once every month. Let's just make it a lifestyle. When you see cities like Kigali, or when you, like, there's a time I was in one of those cities and it was a Saturday. And I was told, if you're going to go out today, be ready to do the manual work. Otherwise, stay in your hotel room until afternoon. And I was like, are you for real? So I went out because I was curious. And indeed, everybody had their hands in the gutter, cleaning everything up. So when you drive in and you're like, oh, Kigali is such a clean city. It's not by accident. People are doing it on purpose. So I wish our leaders would also take pride in demonstrating these things. When you go and see something commemorating an event and it is a stone thing with a plaque, can we change that to growing a tree? You know, that used to be what was there before. It was commonplace to plant a tree in commemoration of, and that tree grows and is there for posterity. But these days we'll go and do pestle and mortar and put a shiny plaque on top.
And garbage collection is very important.
Little things that demonstrate we care about our environment. And it's one of those things where we were talking even over the break. As a citizens, things we can do. We all want to put these stone walls around our fences. Why don't we put trees? Plants a live hedge. It cleans the air that you breathe, you and your children. It's beautiful. I grew up in Buruburu when everybody had cypress fences. And it was a thing when your parents had cut it and it looks all nice and neat. It was a source of pride. Now everybody has got stone walls. Let's just think a little outside the box. I look at Nairobi Dam. It used to have a sailing club, a sailing club that had yachts. People used to go there for yachting and fishing and whatnot. Right now, you look at Nairobi Dam, you'd be mistaken to think it is a field. Because it's full of hyacinth.
In fact, most people only know Nairobi Dam as the estate. They don't actually know there's a dam.
It's actually there. And if you run in there, you're going to drown. Because under the hyacinth, there's still water.
I think garbage collection is very important. We have heaps of garbage all over. Nobody's bothered to clear that. So I think that's important. In some other countries, you cannot even eat bananas and throw the peels in the streets. somebody will run after you and tell you, oh, what have you done?
Right.
Pick it up and go and throw it in the dustbin. We throw things around everywhere. We are not sensitive to it, and that's where we start education.
Right.
Please do not throw sugarcane, whatever remains. Don't throw banana peels or orange peels and all that. Make sure that you have a dustbin, you throw it in. When you start learning small things like that, then you will be able to understand what the environment is all about, and you'll protect it.
Right, fantastic stuff. As
And
always,
let me buttress her idea. You know, garbage is also big business.
It's big business.
If you sort it, you can compost this and make fertilizer that is money.
Yeah,
if you recycle the plastics, that's also money. If you recycle the aluminum, it's also money. I mean, we need to start seeing the ka-ching-ching in our garbage and not just lump it all together and go dump it in Dandora.
Exactly.
Let's get creative with our garbage. Let's process it.
and like you say, it's not only saving the climate, but it's also making business sense right there. So why not actually look into garbage as well? We get your tweets at K24 TV. Cindy 419763. Everyone is coming up with suggestions that will go underground after a few weeks or months until another tragedy happens, God forbid, alluding to what happened yesterday as far as the school is concerned. Kevin Muigai, music to my ears, this discussion that we have had for many, many years, but that's just talk. All you know is corruption and petty politics. Alonzo Kagwongo, good morning, esteemed panel watching from Kaheti Mokorene. The esteemed panel is you ladies, so good morning to you. Alex Chicks, late, but I hope I didn't miss too much as far as this is concerned. ENR says, I remember somewhere in Nyeri, the firefighters could not operate the extinguisher because they were not trained on how to use it. Kenya is a failed state. The only thing we know is nepotism.
Oh, no.
So you can imagine how that's looking as far as that. And then the last one, Kamga KE. Good morning, Jeff. That's all talk, my friend. That's nothing new. Kindly remember, this is Kenya where nothing changes despite the damage. Too sad. I think that's also a tweet
that tells you a lot. People
school.
are not happy. People are negative because they don't see action. We talk a lot. Policies are in place. Nobody's implementing anything. The country has lost hope.
Right.
That's why those comments come in like that.
And you can
they just think this is just music.
Right.
We're just talking. It's just lip service.
And it's really shocking when you hear somebody saying that the firemen came but couldn't operate the fire extinguisher.
Exactly.
How shocking is that?
It's shocking.
It's hilarious, but it's tragic at the same time.
It is.
Because why are you investing in all these things and then you don't know how to use them?
Right.
I mean, it's like a friend of mine who had a house girl who didn't know how to operate the microwave. And she took the pot of tea, the sufuria, and put in the microwave and put it on. And there was an explosion. If you're having somebody working in an institution, as an employer, it behoves you to give them training. This is what the law is. The law says, give them training to be able to use the equipment to be able to do their job. It's not just hiring a guy and telling him there's a fire, put it off.
Even in hospital, machines are brought there. But people can't operate them.
To operate
There's some machines that have been there for the last how many years?
And
they've never been used. They're still new, they're unpacked. Nobody has the skills to open them and operate on them.
Right. So a big issue right there also when it comes to the capacity that we give them, not only in terms of the machines, but also training and capacity to use those particular machines. Let's move on from that story to another that we need to address. This one is found in the Standard. State-bought bogus system for Huduma number listing. No law adopted after data collections can cure anomalies in the system and possible hacks, expert tells the court. The government spent 6 billion shillings on an archaic system to capture and store data collected from millions of Kenyans. Goes on to say that this is actually a honeypot for hackers around the world.
I know.
So here we are, we were told, go and make sure you're part of this particular process. All the leaders spoke about it. The CS, Musharu, came out and said that our data is safe, yet here we are.
Well,
how do you back out of this, Honorable Ombaka?
I think this part of the game we have always had. Nothing works for us. Money always gets lost. Look at that. We took time to go and register for Huduma numbers. I haven't got my number yet. I don't know whether you've got yours.
Right.
But now what is emerging is that it's all fake. It's all but nonsense. Money is lost and lots of money is lost.
Right.
It doesn't surprise me.
Threats were made on that particular period, in that particular period of time, and people are really afraid what happens if I don't register or not. Yet you're looking at the planning that was put in place before the threat was made, and you can see we are in the whole 6 billion shillings, if this is anything to go by, for a system that really isn't secure.
You know, it's not just the security of the system. It's what you said before, the honeypot for hackers. Right now, a big commodity around the world is data. Data is money. That's why Google is huge. That's why Facebook is huge. That's why all the social media platforms that manage to collect data from a lot of people make a lot of money. That's why Cambridge Analytica has a market, because they analyze people's data and they allow you to target different segments of the data. Is big business.
Right.
And I don't think even for us, we should be looking at how much money was spent getting an archaic system. It would be somebody sitting there with all this data that is available to the highest bidder. It's chilling. It makes you scared to think, how can government be this careless with its people? Because it's akin to collecting your people, putting them in a wide open field and auctioning them. That's how it feels like. On this particular issue, there was a lot of disquiet about how rushed it seemed. How, no, we have a census coming. Why do we need to do Huduma before the census?
And they asked about Huduma during the census.
Exactly. And Kenyans couldn't quite understand why Huduma. Till now, I don't think I can adequately explain why Huduma. I can see where the government wanted to go with it, but it didn't seem well thought out. And now such headlines make you realize, you know what, maybe it wasn't as well thought out as we're made to think. And the issue of trying to force Kenyans into it also now doesn't augur well, because those of us who did register are now wondering what's going to happen with our data. The ones who did not register looking at us thinking you should have been skeptical like us. But I wish the government, even with the doom and gloom of we cannot backtrack now, I'm seeing a lot of effort going towards drafting bills about data protection and other things. I wish they would just push on with it. Let's see what we can salvage. Let's salvage what we can. And at the end of the day, I hope it actually does work out well, because what Mheshimiwa said is rather ominous. Nothing seems to work for us. Everything, it's like you do something and you wait for the scandal to break.
Right.
This time around, I hope something good does come out of it. And if it doesn't, I hope the president is going to make people take responsibility for misguiding him and misguiding the cabinet into thinking that this was an excellent idea. Let people take responsibility. Because if this was a scheme to harvest our data for economic gain for somebody else somewhere, heads need to roll.
And from a legal point of view, we're talking about the fact that we put the cart before the horse. Let's go and get all this data and then go and get the data protection laws. How do you even explain this? Because shouldn't we have the framework through which we shall now get this data and protect it?
And that was part of the criticism in the run-up to registering for Huduma number. People are saying, look, what is the big hurry? What's the big urgency? We have a census coming up. You can do it simultaneously with the census. We are a country that has got, like all that data that they are collecting, it's not data that is new. They're asking for your birth certificate, meaning your records are somewhere in the Register of Births and Deaths. They're asking for your ID number, meaning your information is also somewhere. They're asking for passport number. They're asking for things that they already had, even when they were registering for your Huduma number. So it's a matter of why was there no synchronizing the different data systems. The IEBC has all this data. M-Pesa has all this data. We have to come to a place where, as a country, some of these things are not... I wish even our technocrats, forget even our politicians, our technocrats would get off their high horse of thinking, you know, I'm the minister, when I say so, you guys jump how high. You're doing this on behalf of your fellow Kenyans. Just stop and listen. Humility costs nothing, but it has such a high premium. When you stop and listen, you save yourself some egg on your face.
Here we are with, you've said it, it seems like everything we do is doomed and you get into this.
Yeah, I'm worried about the money lost.
Should we flag this off and just say it's water under the bridge, we move on?
Are you?
No, we need to find out who's cheating here. And we need to get the culprit and take him to jail. I know it doesn't work. As I said earlier, nothing works for us. Even if you go check who has stolen this money, because you talked of 6 billion that has been spent. That's money washed down the drains. But somebody must be responsible. It can't just be that it is a system that was bogus. But somebody must answer the questions. This person must be arrested. And this person must go to jail. But we must see the person jailed, because somehow they get out so easy, and then the story is over. Can we now find out in details who's responsible and how we can prosecute people who have messed up with this? The second point is now the data. Is it lost completely? Is somebody going to misuse it somewhere? Is my name going to appear somewhere and somebody's going to misuse it and I find myself in trouble because my details are there? I don't know. I'm at risk. everybody's at risk. Anybody who registers for Huduma number
Right.
is at risk. We do not know how the data is going to be used
Right.
by rogues, now that the rogues are handling the Huduma system. Yeah.
And she's saying that at the end of the day, we need to find somebody who's culpable for this and bring them to book. But you don't have a good record of that, Joy. We still have very many cases, and they drag on for quite a while, and then after some time, evidence is lacking and they walk scot-free.
Yeah.
How do we change this narrative? Because we have said it time and time again, this is President Uhuru Kenyatta's legacy at stake, but you're still not seeing the heads roll. We've seen high-profile arrests. We hadn't seen that before. When do we get high-profile convictions? And how do you make sure that happens?
You know, in most of these instances where there's a high level of collusion like this, you need very, very patient and very meticulous investigations. And sometimes I think we jump the gun, where we suspect Jeff, we suspect Joy, we go, we arrest them, and then we arraign them in court. And then while they're in court, we ask for time to go look for more evidence. Sometimes that's where we fail. There is no statute of limitation when it comes to criminal offenses. Even if it takes 10 years. I wish there would be an investigator who had this dogged determination to just follow a case slowly and meticulously until they get to a conclusion. By the time you're bringing a matter to court, it is foolproof. However, we have reduced everything in Kenya to not exactly showbiz, but people have got, you know, I must present an X number of cases in court for me to look like I'm working. It's become a game of numbers. The courts, I must churn out X number of judgments a month so that I look like I'm working. For the EACC, we must chuck X number of... And sometimes when we do that, it becomes a game of numbers. It looks very good in the optics. But like you said, does it translate into results? And over and above the arraignment of people and the conviction, there's also recovering of the money that is lost. Because what good is hundreds of convictions and somebody is just sitting in jail for the next 5 years, knowing when he comes out, he still has his 20 billion sitting. I mean, that's a good paycheck. Even me, I'll do 3 years in jail to come out for a 20 billion paycheck. We need to also have ways of recovering what has been lost. Being able to ring fence our gains, for example. Like even the data that has already been collected. Can there be something to make sure that it is locked down? Because these days of identity theft, of online, everything is online these days. Like Mheshimiwa said, you can find your data has been used for something that is out there that doesn't make sense, or you find targeted advertising. There's how many things turn up on your phone and you have no idea how they got your number. We just need to come to a place where people become a bit more serious. But the bottom line is patriotism. We need to learn to love our country more than we love our stomachs. In Kenya, we have lost that. The common good, you know what, you saw the Three Musketeers, all for one and one for all. We don't have that anymore. Now it is all for me and me alone. Not even me and my family, it's all for me and me alone.
Right.
We need to, as Kenyans, we need to find that patriotism again, that fire for Mother Kenya. Because I think that's what we've lost. That's why people, as long as you've made your billion and you've run away and you've started in Dubai, you're quite happy for the rest of the Kenyans to fight for the scraps.
And we're talking about that also because as we look at a possible scenario where we're losing 6 billion shillings in terms of the Huduma number system that was purchased, the financial standards talking about enemies of austerity. This was a picture you're talking about, where you have a couple of notes with a belt tightened, you know, signifying tightening times, you know, tightening your belt of times ahead. Despite growing talk of the need to rein in reckless state spending, politicians who rake in millions of shillings from government coffers might prove the biggest hurdle to Treasury's fat trimming exercise. The president has spoken about austerity. The acting CS Ukur Yatani has spoken about austerity measures. There's a hiring freeze right now because people are complaining. You talk about this, but you look about the money spent in terms of foreign travel. That has actually increased from last year to this year.
Yeah, but there will never be any solution if you do not arrest. You know, you must punish. Even
it goes back to conviction.
Yeah, conviction. Even a child who steals sugar in the house, you must tell the child, this is wrong, don't steal sugar. Just take it, just ask me and I'll give you if you want to lick some sugar.
Right.
Theft begins from home, little things that people steal, but punishment must also go with it. Now, if we do not punish those who steal so much money like that, another one will happen and it will be an over and over again story, repeated in different ways.
Right.
Punishment must be done. And that's why I'm asking the judiciary, what are you doing with so much money stolen and criminals are identified and no action takes place? People get arrested, they go in there and then they're bailed out and then the story is over.
Right.
And another one starts and another and another. It's too much. That's why people have lost hope in this country. People have learned that there's nothing that's going to happen. Whatever whether you kill, whether you steal, no action will take place.
There's no crime too great.
Yes, there's nothing. The law system is not working for us.
Honorable Mbaka says it's all about successful convictions, but it also seems like politicians also know how to weave their way and work within the law when you talk about things like foreign travel, because we're looking at an area where when you compare last year to this year, it's actually increased domestically in terms of the allowances domestically and foreign travel. This is something that's in the law, but you're hoping that your politician would have goodwill and look at the signs of the times and probably not spend as much. We had them here and they said it was budgeted, the money is there.
Exactly.
But do we have to spend it because it's there, Joy?
And you know, I sympathize with Mheshimiwa here because I'm about to twanga her with a big stick.
Well, here it comes, Mheshimiwa.
Let me hear you, Twanga. I have an answer for you.
When you look at politicians fighting the SRC, when they tell them, you know what, you can only have X number of committee sittings, you can only belong to X number of committees, you can only have X number of trips abroad, and they are up in arms because if you're turning up for a sitting, and as long as you've signed in, you know your 15,000 is in the pocket.
No, it's 15.
It's a good payday. If you're going to go for a trip, you're outside the country for what, 10 days, and you come back and you've got 710,000 in the account in terms of per diem, and maybe you slept in a little downtown place because you've saved the bulk of the money. Those are the places where Kenyans look and are like, okay, if we're doing austerity, can we really do austerity? We've seen some things in terms of trying to say how many people can have motorcades and how big the motorcades should be, trying to fuel guzzlers. We don't want the guzzlers, let's use regular cars. And you had a politician saying, you want us to ride in Passata with teenagers. And I was like, which teenagers do you know who drive German machines? You know, you look at it and you're like, just sympathize with the people that you're leading. Some of these things mean nothing. You've seen pictures of David Cameron riding in the tube, or who was it? Was it the Danish one who cycles to work? I think simple things, because if you're a leader of the people, you should identify with the people that you lead, and you should be happy to use the facilities that they use. I live along Langata Road, Rongai, those sides. When you're coming to town, like even now, this morning, the number of people who and get you out of the way, it's ridiculous. We are all going to the same place. Just sit in traffic with the rest of us, listen to our beautiful radio stations and learn something from us. I don't know why our politicians insulate themselves so much, because what happens when you leave office and you've given yourself this Kaliru cushion, you've been living on this cloud for 5 years, then you come back with the third and you're no longer Mheshimiwa, and now you have to sit in traffic, and now nobody knows who you are anymore. You cannot walk in with your bodyguard in front and your driver at the back, and that's why people choose depression. That's why you find they're fighting for appointments, because if you identified with the people that you lived with, if you lived your life just as simply as you did before, there would be no transition, would be easy. But they set themselves up. And the rest of us are watching. And that's why initiatives now like that seem to make their life more cushy, Kenyans are pushing back, because they're like, no, come on. We pamper you enough as it is. It's enough.
Honorable Mbaka, respond on this, because
I want to respond on
we look at it and you're like, you're having all the parks and everything, and we are bending our backs and breaking our backs trying to,
a lot has been removed, and I don't think we are all that pampered like you're saying. I'm a member of parliament, yes, and I've traveled abroad to Brazil with the committee that deals with the implementation of the laws. And we went there to look at devolution, which they have. So traveling abroad is not a crime, and it is out to learn what we can bring home so that we can actually do it better. The Brazilians also have devolution system. So that's what we went to check and to learn from them, the challenges they also face and how they are doing it so well that we can come and learn from here. So traveling, any member of parliament who travels has not done any crime. It's necessary.
People have gone to the World Cup.
No, but at times,
I'm talking about Kaluma Bwana. You went to the World Cup traveling business.
Listen.
And the report
to learn
was
not all the time. Not
to learn how to play better in Bunge FC.
We are going to exploit this country. We travel for a reason, and there's a purpose. We learn and come back and implement what we have learned from out there.
Right.
So really, traveling abroad is not a crime. And Kenyan politicians are not the only ones who travel.
But I think the
even
thing is,
in the US,
Honorable Mbaka, I think the question is, it's not about traveling or not, but the fact that if we're indeed going through austere times, why should we be increasing foreign travel? Because that same money could be used for something else that will have
No,
a more
well,
direct
let's put it different. There was a directive, was it last week or last week, but one, that if the event is fully sponsored, then there'll be no per diem paid. Right. And again, we saw pushback. They're like, no, even if it is sponsored, because if it's sponsored, it means your ticket is paid, your accommodation is paid, so you get a modest per diem. They don't want that. They want a partner.
Yeah, but do you think politicians are the only ones who travel in this country?
No, they're not.
Nobody's talking about CSS. Nobody's talking about chairmen of certain boards. Nobody's talking about commissioners of certain commissions. Right. So I really think when we're talking about traveling abroad and trying to cut down on cost, let us talk as a country.
Yes,
don't
across
depict
the board.
Politicians as the only people who misuse funds in this country.
Okay, so it's them and all the public officials.
Yes, I think public officials.
Right, and you'll have to do it at that particular point in time.
Politicians should not be targeted as though it's a crime to be a politician. It's not criminal.
That is true.
I'm not in this position because I'm a criminal. No, it's because I looked for the job and I got it.
Right.
And again, you need to understand that we need to be paid a little better, because the job we do on the ground is totally different from what is in the Constitution. The Constitution gives us only 3 roles. One, an oversight. One, represent people. And the other one is to legislate. 3. But when you go to the ground, these 3 are not there. You do harambes, you do all sorts of things, using your money, and all the time you are depleted.
We'll have to pick it up from there, because...
Can't we really? Well, let that be another talk.
Because that's a whole different debate you have to have in terms of the pay and why it's justified as far as that's concerned.
So we are not really rich.
We get that. But in terms of closing remarks, 30 seconds each, what's a parting shot, Honorable Lombaka?
I just want this country to be united. I want this country to support young children in schools, to make sure, because this is a big thing. And I think I was touched by the story of this school, the Precious Talents tragedy. And I think there's a lesson to be learned from here. Okay. Let all our schools be safe. Let the ministry play their role. Let the school management also be in charge and respect the lives of everybody. Okay. Let parents also point out where there are weaknesses within their schools. Okay. Otherwise, let all Kenyans be safe wherever they are.
Thank you so much. Joy, your parting shot.
I think I'm also with the Precious Talent School. When we put profit above everything else, we see what we saw yesterday. Somebody had a single story school, and they decided there are many students, we are going to add another floor, putting greed ahead of it, the contractor who did it. There's reports of the children reporting that they saw weaknesses in the infrastructure. Parents, visit your children's school. Go to the toilets that they go to. Look at their classrooms. And if it's not safe, pull your child out. At the end of the day, it is us who need to protect our children more than anybody else. But over and above that, like I said before, patriotism is not just for our leaders who demand it, even for Kenyans. Don't do something shoddy when you know it could be paid for by the blood of others. And in this particular instance, those who are responsible for this, I hope they do some soul searching, and I hope that they see and understand that that quick money that they made is not worth the pain of the parents who are rocking a pillow instead of rocking a child right now. It's ridiculousness, and may God judge between us and them.
Leave it at that. Thank you so much, Joy Mdivo, East Africa Center Law of Justice, and of course, Honorable Christine Ombaka, CIO Women's Rep. Thank you so much for your time. And the debates that we had this morning, quite fire right there, as they say.